Hello everyone, my name is Kist and welcome back to another episode of Trackline. You know what? No. Enough of this. I have another idea. You know what? I have another idea. Oh. I think I have another idea in mind. Well, I have one more idea.
I am taking fire.
You know what? I think I have another idea. You know, on second thought, I think it might be better to stick to roads all 9. Yeah. Anywho, my name is Kist and welcome back to another episode of Trackline 101. Today, we're doing it. We're finishing the series with the refinery. I'm over here by the oil fields with our triple mainline because we're going to be building, again, a triple mainline all the way to the refinery. And it's going to be pretty fun. This one's going to be really great because I get to talk to you guys about building double tracks on grades. How do we actually do all that stuff? It's kind of easy to do it on flat ground, just like we did last episode with the ironworks. We'll just have to do our switch placement, but when it comes to building on a grade, that is a whole nother beast entirely. I don't think we need to go into the Paint 3D to look at a track overview. I think we can just start. I will be using roads extended just to kind of gauge the distances for everything. But without further ado, let's actually jump into the building today. First thing we're going to do is we're actually going to stay on the left track or inside line. Why? Well, again, if you watch the Ironworks episode 11, we talked about the properties of a curve. The inside curve, like the innermost edge, is always going to be the shortest. So we have to conform all of our tracks to this one. Since we're making a left turn, it has to be the left track that we're conforming to. Now, I think I'm going to maybe do 95 here. That sounds good. Now, what I'm doing now is I'm grabbing a bridge. Why? Well, unlike the regular spines and even the stone wall, I believe, bridges will render for almost the entire length of the spline segment. So I'm just drawing a bridge out to see how big of a curve I can get. What's going to be the smoothest? So 300's not going to cut it. Let's do 250 to make it even, so 250. I need to build a curve 250 meters in length. Now again, for the centricity of a curve, if I just build one giant spline, it will mess up the centricity. The centricity will falter. It'll be more like an oval. I think I can show it here. Now that we have the measurements in place, what we want to do is build in shorter segments. So we have 250. I think keeping it 50 so we can make it easy, 5 50-meter segments. That should make it really easy to build. Okay, so I just got those 5 pieces in place, and now you can see we have this beautiful giant curve cresting around the mountain. But I'm a little bit concerned. If I crouch for a second, I wonder if the spine will hit that mountain or that hill in the distance. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a bridge again. Let's flatten out and see where this takes us. Okay, so we'll miss the hill. I'm just a little bit worried that we're gonna have to make a semi-sharp curve here. I was hoping to do a little bit gradual. $190 it is. Now what I'm doing here is, this is just me kind of tracing things out. Obviously we don't want these giant segments because in case I delete it, it's not gonna be good basically. I am going to keep that curve in place though, as it will just be our placement, just so I can know what everything is. From here, if you haven't seen last time, let's talk about it now. How do I actually get things parallel? The first thing I actually need to do is get my spacing for the double main line, or I guess in this case, the triple main line. What I'm going to do first is just get spacing for one of the tracks. Now, the piece I'm extending out right now is just to make sure my link points are in line with each other. And if I were to draw a straight line down the center of the screen, what we're trying to do is line up the rails, the joint of the switch and the rail, and the current rail I'm placing now. We're trying to line them up on center. And the way you can do that is 22.2. Now there's a little bit of a discrepancy. So I'm going to try to get it in line as best as I can. I think it was a little bit short, just shy of it, but that's okay. What I can do then is simply connect this piece. I'm actually going to delete this one and make it a bigger piece. Why, in this case, I want a bigger spline to save myself on the spline count. We don't need to worry about splitting this piece into 2 segments. It's not super long. I think we can get away with it. What I can do then is actually delete this one, this one, this one, and this one. You might be able to see that the points are lined up as almost perfectly. So I'm going to do the same thing for the other side, is I'm going to place my double mainline crossover just so I can get the spacing for the third rail. And again, 22.2 meters should line us up. Once I do that, I can then just connect these 2 pieces together. Ta-da! Now we have our triple mainline. Basically what a bunch of this is actually going to consist of is me building one curve, one piece of it, and then just making crossovers to match up. And so for every segment of this, since this is a really large curve, what I'm actually going to do is build on each of these points. So I'll show you right here. We're going to place a switch, crossover, and just get our double mainline spacing. This is what I'm going to do for all of it. Extend this 22.2 out. Okay, great. What I can then do is go back to the previous segment and then connect them. Delete our excess. Now you can see we have a parallel curve segment. And this is what we're just going to do for the entirety of it. So let's just speed through it real quickly and we'll just get this curve done. Okay, I'm gonna pause real quickly on the time lapse just to talk about this. I just wanted to test it, see if it stayed parallel. Unfortunately though, I'm gonna be very picky about this. It's slightly off and I do not want to ruin the actual parallelism of it. So I'm gonna just do what I'm gonna do, keep building it in shorter segments. Let's jump back into it and finish it out. And she is done. The first curve out of many. But let's not spend too much time to sit here and admire it. The only thing that would make this more realistic is if we had super elevation to it. But I think it looks rather cool. I was really tempted to do a 4th track when I first designed this, but people were like, nah, just keep it 3, and I'm like, fine. Alright, now what? Well, easy part is now we have a straightaway, but I kind of want to add like a little bridge segment. The terrain dips down, so I think I'm going to do that. Our favorite number 10 meters. We're going to do the same thing here. I don't think we need to make it perfect with the spacing. What we can actually do is look at the stone wall. There we go. Beautiful. Now, if you've ever wondered why would we put stone wall instead of just putting a bridge, well, if we actually look at civil engineering again, when it comes to the design of bridges, there are these things called anchors or anchor points. And what they're supposed to do is be the kind of foundation for a bridge, if you will. They're the points where the bridge is anchored to. It's where most of the weight and most of the support goes from. So it's a little bit realistic that we have some kind of stronger foundation piece before the bridge. Now for here, I'm kind of thinking, actually I don't really know how I'm going to do this, because if we had 4, what we could do is do left, right, left, right. But since we have 3, it'd be like left, none, right. That'd look weird because we don't have a bridge that has no railing. That actually looks good. Bridge 1 is fine, but like, so actually I have a thing we can do to fix this. I'm going to take the DNRG Western, bridge 2. I'm going to drag this out. Let's do 80 meters. We're going to do the same thing for all of them. We're going to extend them out 80 meters. we have all three of the bridges in place. Now what I'm going to do is same thing on this side. I'm going to extend it 10 meters out exactly. Okay, awesome. Now this looks a little weird, so how are we going to fix it? Well, fun fact, and you may not like this, but you can simply double spline these bridges, and this is what you get. Now we're going to ignore the texture fighting and actually focus on the overall aesthetic. Trust me when I say this does work. It won't cause your trains to derail, and if it does, it might be a positional bug or a visual bug related to the game. But trust me on this again, it will work. We're going to do this for all three of the bridges. You have everything in place. Kind of looks cool. I mean, probably not the best looking, to be honest. I think would actually look better. Oh, let's see if I can do it. I think this looks better. But now I'm questioning if I should do a better looking bridge. Should we just kind of like make it an Oreo, how it is, or should I change the color? I'm going to leave it for now, but go ahead and leave me a comment on what you guys think. Should we make the bridges, I'm thinking bridge 2 instead. Yeah, I'll put this one down real quickly, and I'm going to ask again. Just let me know your guys' opinion. Should we do Oreo style, or should we make them all relatively similar? So again, let me know now. Moving on, again, another easy part, we just gotta do straight pieces. And with straight pieces specifically, you can do long segments. I think what we're gonna do here is just connect this up, and I'm gonna make it more specific. Let's do 150. Now, I wonder, I'm gonna build another crossover spacing to maybe test something. I wanna see if this is true or if this is not true. So what are we gonna test? Well, we're actually gonna test how straight these splines actually are. Well, would you look at that? This is what I am talking about. Now, this could be a few things. It could be the switch placement, could be just how they're aligned, it could be the actual straight piece. But I cannot tell you guys enough that there are these really tiny discrepancies with the code. Even though it's 0 degrees radius, it is still a curve. It is turning some amount. If I try linking it, it shifts over to the left quite a decent amount. But let's just connect it. We know we want this spacing. This is what we actually want. And in the grand scheme of things, it actually doesn't look too bad. It still looks relatively straight. Now, for our sake, we're gonna do this same thing for the other side, the last track. This one's even worse, spacing wise. It's really shifted over. So we're gonna fix the spacing. I mean, if you really looked at it, I guess you could, but for all intents and purposes, they're parallel. They're straight, they're in line. We know they wave a little bit, but again, no big deal. Now this curve. I remember we said 190, so let's go at -190. Should be kind of fun because you won't be able to see the train coming around the hill, the corner. And let's see how far out we actually need to make this segment. So we're trying to go straight here, so maybe 180. So we can do 6 30-meter segments or 3 60-meter segments. I'm inclined to do the 3 60-meter segments, so we're going to do that. Beautiful. Now, just like last time, we're going to do crossovers just to get the spacing side to side for this entire curve. So let's jump into time-lapse and get this out of the way. Okie doke, beautiful. Now we have our second curve in place, and everything's looking rather cool. We have our first curve onto our straightaway, and our second curve around this little hill. And now we're going to build our second straightaway here. But I think we should add a crossover here. It doesn't really make sense to have one merge and then no crossovers. What if they want to switch tracks? Maybe there's other trains on a certain track. So we need to have the ability for them to switch tracks as they're running and as they're going. I think we're going to do so here. And I'm thinking maybe not right away after the curve. Let's go another 50 meters out and start a crossover here. Now there's two ways we can do a crossover. One is nice for train running, one is not so nice for train running. The first one is simply just using our switches and basically zigzagging. Okay, great. So this is one half of the crossovers. The track all the way on the left or on the right can cross all the way left. No, I guess on the left, crossover right. And then now if you do it the other way, ta-da! Now we have the full crossover. And basically this is just the very simple way, the easy way. Also makes it nice for train running. Now the other one is basically a very similar thing, but instead of doing a crossover where we just have multiple switches do the same thing, instead use the stub switch and basically converge all the points to here. So that way if they want to, they can cross down here. It's really compact, but the problem is the stub switch. These ones don't automatically flip, so if you run into it and it's thrown the wrong way, derail. So you could do this, it may look a little bit better, it might be easier and save more space, but you're more prone to derails if you're not careful. And now I'm trying to think about the switch stand placements. And honestly, what I kind of want to do is I'm thinking of this as forward, so traveling this direction is forward for me. I think it would make sense to have the switch directions kind of be on the side they're heading. So this one's on the left because it's on the outside, but then we're going to the right. Now it's on the outside. And the same thing here, I want these ones to be on the left. Just to kind of balance it out. I think that way makes the most sense, to be honest. What we can do now is we can just connect the inner pieces. This is not the hard part. What the hard part is going to be is kind of eyeballing the measurements for this. But wait, aha! Never mind. It's actually relatively easy because we can just connect to the curve straight up. What's going to be hard is now eyeballing it on this side. Now, I say it's actually hard, not really. It's just two switch placements, so if we go 44.4, oh, 63.3 it is then. But this way everything is in line, or should be roughly parallel in line with each other. Now what I'm going to do is delete these crossovers and actually replace them with rail. Okay, and awesome, I just got those pieces in place. Now we can continue with the building. For right now, the plan is that we're going to be turning around the mountain for the last time and kind of entering almost a straightaway. But I don't know how well you can see it, but there's like a very faint little blob of black or dark green in the distance. That is the hill we're shooting for the refinery. Also, in the meantime, as soon as we curve around this hill, we got to start talking about the grade up to the refinery. I think first, though, what we should do is let's make the curve so we can get our straightaway. Now let's go to the refinery and start building down. I think if we can kind of get our spacing and just how we want everything to enter at the refinery, we can kind of puzzle piece it, I guess, make sure they fit in between both points. So let's just jump right into it. Again, like the last few times, what we need to do is we need to start on the inside curve, find the radius here. Now we can probably go a little bit progressive here and do on a sharper curve. I wonder though, would this be too much? Maybe we should add a little bit of a straight segment before going into the curve. Well, I think I should also owe the explanation to why I feel this way. Problem is, even though it's not calculated in Railroads Online, it's the side-to-side physics, and I'm worried about the links between both the train, the locomotives, and the cars themselves. Because what we're doing is experiencing a rapid change of force. Imagine if a 20-car train was going all the way from this track to the left. It'd be going left, then back right, then left, and back right, and then immediately going left again into another curve. So we're putting a lot of sideways force on the consist. We don't want to do that. We don't want to do that at all. So it might be good to make it neutral out for a short segment before turning it again. It gives room for one car to make the adjustment and things to balance out. I think I'm going to extend this 10 meters and not worry about the side spacing. Okay, awesome. They should be roughly parallel. If not, I'll fix it in a minute or two. Now we have to talk about the curve one more time. Same thing applies, quite literally the same thing. We just got to figure out the nice angle for this. So let me do that real quickly, and I'll BRB with the correct angle in place, and I'll actually show the building of the curve, but let me figure this out first. Okay, I just got that crossover in place because that's going to help me keep the measurements. What we have is a negative 260-degree radius for 141 meters. Now we can kind of think around the 50-meter mark because 150 divided by 3, but it's a little undershot, so I'm going to do 45 meters instead for this segment. Should probably make this last one either a little bit shorter or a little bit bigger. Yeah, just a little bit bigger, but that's okay. Yep, 51, 45. Yep, that makes sense. 90 plus 51, that's 141. Nice. Now what we're going to do is literally the same thing the other 2 times. Woo! Let's power it out and get it done. And ta-da! Our next curve is in place, and it's all looking rather cool. Just looks really fun to look at. And yeah, I have some ideas to make like cool video shots of trains running on this. It should be rather fun. Maybe we can do like a 3-track race of some sorts. I think that'd be pretty awesome. Alright, the next easy part. What we're going to do here is we have a big distance to cover. I think I'm going to do 100 and 130 meter long pieces. No particular reason, but trying to make sure this will fit at a regular distance, I'm going to say. I'm actually rather concerned now that my 3rd track is going to clip this hill. Actually, I'm going to build this last segment at maybe 90. So 85. I don't want to go any further than that. So 130, 130, 85. Yeah, I think it'd be good to do mainline spacing for these two. Beautiful. Just got that straight away done, and I think we're going to switch over to the refinery and start building there. Let's do it. And here we are, the refinery. Now, if you're into a lot of switching operations or logistical train running, this is the industry for you. The first thing you might notice is that the 3 actual docks are not lined up together. So it becomes really hard to actually make a smooth layout for it. The other side of it is rather easy because you just gotta put a track next to it to load the barrels. How are we gonna tackle this? What is Kist's advice? What do we want to do? Well, I have played a lot of single player, and so I'm gonna build it like it is a single player world. But I might show you later on how to do something for multiplayer session or to get up a good industry. I guess just however you want to feel. But let's talk about the single player aspect. Like if I'm just running this to run trains, I don't want to switch. I just want to be able to do it now. My best advice to you is actually do it diagonally. Another way, and big shout out to the user to rock you for this, is you can put a track here in the middle. Now, more specifically, raised it up. If I were to do a massive grade just to try to get it level, If you really wanted to, I've seen a lot of people do this, at least this method is you raise the track first, but you can make the track go to dock height and then place 2 double tracks here in the center and have it cross this way. That is one way I've seen it. That's not the way we're going to do it today. The way we're going to do it is we're actually going to build it here off the corner of the industry. Now, I'm going to take a moment here. If you look on the right where the groundwork is touching the pillar, I don't know how well you can see it, but if you trace the right edge, you might see that it's not, I'm going to say round, it's 2 flat sides of it, and there's a corner. What we're going to do is we're going to line up the corner of the groundwork to the post. So I'm a little undershot, so if I move it to the right, around here, this would be good. Now, another thing is it's a little too far off, it's too far away, so we need to readjust this. The point for this is we want the cars to be able to comfortably unload on that dock. This will probably be fine, but now I'm realizing that it's a little too much on this side, so that's about good. I'm actually going to go get a car from the freight depot, and I'm going to go re-rail it here. I'll be right back. So I have a car here, and it should be good. It's not clipping there, but I'm afraid it's going to be clipping here on the edge. Let's see if I can get it. Okay, no, it will not be clipping. So now let me go get an engine and do the same thing. Okay, great. The reason I have the Heisler is it is the biggest engine, or not the biggest engine, but one of the widest engines.
Damn, boy, he's sick!
So if it can make it past the Heisler, we're okay. So if you want, try to get a good, comfortable spacing away. I actually didn't line it up directly on the corner of the groundwork like I said a minute ago. I placed it just on the outside when you're building it. Now from here, what we're going to do is we're not going to curve it first. We're actually going to get the spacing here. So this one is a little bit weird. It's on, I think grid 98 is a good one. Grid 99, that's a good number for it. This time we want it relatively close. Not the most close, but relatively close. Edge of the groundwork on the edge of the post. I'm actually going to do 19. Yeah, that looks a little bit more reasonable. But on second thought, I don't really like that. You can clearly see it's more of a J shape, or you can think a check mark. I want that to be more even, so I'm actually going to extend this out a little bit, and then connect these two. There we go. Looks a little bit better. What I don't like, I'm being so picky right now, what I don't like is the entrance into this, so we're going to fix it. What I'm going to do here is use a bridge, and only extend it to about here. We'll do 15. Now I'm going to curve it at 100 for 5 meters. Yeah. This is our spiral curve, but this way we can still see where our unload area is. Now I think I can do the same thing. Before I delete that piece, because I'm really paranoid, put a marker in place. Okay, cool. Then what we can do is try to figure out the radius. From here, shouldn't be too bad. There we go. Really good curve now. All that work just for that. What we can do now is just replace this piece. But I lie. I am so sorry. We still want our bridge to make sure we know when to unload. Now this area is rather small, so I'm actually gonna do... Actually, no, I am gonna keep it from here. I don't want any more short splines. So let's flatten this back out. You know what? No, I lie. We're fixing this, and we're gonna make this look good. Problem is we don't like. There's only gonna be a small place for unload. We'll do 6. Kind of close enough. But you can see we only have this part of the dock to unload on, so we don't need a big piece. We just need something instead. We'll do 10. We'll extend the dock out for 6 or 7, I guess in this case. Point is now we actually have our unload area. You can see it's a little bit jank. We can probably make it look a little bit better, to be honest with you. But I think it is fine, like always. Now what are we going to do here? Well, we don't have as much space as you might think. However, I think I am also going to get a little creative with just how we're building here, because we are going to have 3 tracks that come up here. And fun fact, I will be entering from this way, south, from the refinery. We have 3 tracks. How are we going to split them up? Well, it makes sense for, we can kind of group them together. Maybe 2 on one side and then 1 on the other. So the question is, well, are we going to have 3 tracks that go all the way around? I think the answer should be no. I don't think we should have 3 tracks that go all the way around. I think we should kind of merge and split them off accordingly. What I'm thinking about doing is making 1 track, this one, go over here. The 2 tracks continue this way, but merge. I think they should merge together. And since we don't have that much space here, I think we should just make a single track return loop that splits into a double track. I think that makes the most sense. I do want to try to see if I can add a bypass track first though. So let's go ahead and actually build the loop first and get back to it. To do this, what we're going to do is do another ballooning, if you will. If you remember at the Ironworks, ballooning simply means we widen out the curve first, expand it on both sides before turning back around. So we're going to do 100 shorter segments this time. We don't have a lot of space, so let's do 7 meters of a 100 meter radius. That will be the start of the curve. Then we're going to go straight to 50 meters, not 51, not 52, straight to 50. We're going to expand this out maybe by, let's do 25. Actually, we're going to do 23. Yes, because I want to do another 100 meter segment. I want it to be a nice even number, so 23 plus 7, that's 30. And now we have a nice segment of the curve here. What we're going to do is, instead of putting a straight piece, I'm actually going to turn it back 100 in the other direction. It shouldn't look awful. Should not look awful of a piece. We're going to do the same thing, 7 meters, keep it very consistent. You can see the actual part of it. It doesn't look as jank, as sketchy as you might have thought. Now we're going to do our actual loop. Let's do 50 meters straight away. We have a little bit of a dip here, so we're going to put a bridge. So let's do 13, and then extend a stone wall bridge out. Stone wall bridge, there it is. 10 meters. Makes it nice and good. And let's do old. We haven't used this guy in a little bit. Or should we use the red? Let's see how this looks. We want it on the edge, so let's do 22. And that doesn't look so bad. Kind of like it. That's a little bit of color. 10. And so on, so on. You can see now the actual loop it's making its turn away, or turn around. Yeah, it's making its turn around to the other side of the industry. So let's just go ahead and speed through this real quickly and get it done. Okay, we have our first boo-boo. The spacing here, the horizontal distance, this will not work. This is not feasible to make this look good and actually have smooth operations. To fix this, what we need to do is we need to push the loop back. Here's the apex of it. We need to push it further out towards here. How do we do that is, instead of turning it right away here, what we need to do is put a straight segment in first. This will push the loop back by a little bit. Now, curves are a little bit weird, parabolas are a little bit weird. So what we're actually going to do is probably keep it to maybe 12 meters. Zero it back out for 12 meters. And that should actually prove probably more than enough. You'd be really surprised. So you can see, I'm going to do 100 meters now. And already, how we're just going to be entering the curve is very different. So 7 meters again. And yes, it's just going to be crazy. If I can speak. This time we're going to do 12 meters. So same exact thing, we're just going to be building the loop. I'm at 50 meters now, and let's just get through it real quickly. Awesome. Now you can really see the difference between our loop now. We have a little bit more distance. I think we can probably get away with putting a switch. I do want to put a switch somewhere here, kind of like what we did at the Ironworks at the end of it, but it might require us to once again push the loop even further back just to get the room for it. So let's test that right now. If I were to put a switch in left facing, could we actually do it? Kind of answer that question by putting in a piece first. Zero this back out. Yes, but it'd be rather jank, so I think we should push the loop back. I'm really adamant about putting a switch in, so let's do that. What we need to do here is push it once again farther out. So let's just push it a little bit farther out and see what happens. Yeah, there we go. Awesome. Yay. What do we actually do? Well, as you probably saw if you're looking at the numbers, I made this straight piece 20 meters instead of 12 like I did previously. Then the stone wall we did 100 meters, then straight into 50 for the bridge and all the way around. I added the little stone wall thing here because it would have been really big groundwork. And because we're on the edge of a cliff, I think it adds nice support. It's kind of like one of those visual things where we're providing just an extra little bit of support for the terrain needed. And we have plenty of room here to add a switch. To flatten it back out, I did a 10 meter long piece at 100 meters radius. And the problem was the angle of the turnout, the switch. Like if it was too far over, then it would have to curve back right and all this extra stuff. So I think we have a good place for everything. I think this works really well. That's really it. We can work on finishing this out now. Do you think I want to test the actual spacing of this? I'm going to be really picky about everything again. Let me go get a cordwood car because that's what we need for barrels, and let's go test its spacing. Okay, so I just brought a cordwood car over here, and you can see we have plenty of space, but unfortunately it's actually too much space. I think I might go get the Heisler again to gauge the spacing, but we should actually probably move the cordwood car a little bit. The problem is we don't want the barrel. They're relatively small, so we want to ensure that they'll actually roll onto the car. I think they will, but I have a feeling they're going to get like stuck here in this gap, so I'm going to move it a little bit closer. Let's just move this guy out of the way, probably over here. We can move this guy a little bit closer. What I'm going to try to do is try to get the wood block on the left in with the posts. Let's try that. Let's see if this will stay in place. Okay, I like that a lot more, to be honest with you. I think that's going to work more than enough. Let's go get the Heisler. I'm worried about engine side to side, so I'm going to get a Heisler and a Tweetsy and see if they both fit there. So unfortunately, yeah, if the Tweetsy is not going to fit, then there's no way any of the other engines will. So I think we're going to have to compromise. The cordwood cars fit, but none of the engines will. I know it's kind of just using one to test this and saying none of them, but we gotta conform to the widest engine. So this one and the Heisler, I think the Heisler is a little bit wider, so this is way too close. Let's do maybe halfway into it. So we did the full block into it. Let's do halfway. Let's try this. See what happens. So it fits here on the underside of it. I just don't know that if it will fit here. Do we have the clearance? So let's actually go with the original idea. Then we know it's cleared over here, and I can just reel it to find out. We're good here in that spacing, but this one's being a little more difficult than I honestly hoped. Truth be told, even though there will be collision with it, I don't think it'll be the end of the world. So I still have it clipping just a little bit. Let's go get the engine and test it one last time. Okay, there we go. Now we can kind of just get really picky and move it in ever so slightly. I'm thinking, if I did that, what if I did the rail there? So I'm just gonna make a short little piece and move this out of the way so I can delete everything. Let's try this, see if it actually works. Alright, we're keeping this. We're keeping this. We're keeping this. We're keeping this. The spacing's good. Okay, finally, now that we have all that, all that for just one piece of rail. But now that we have that in place, what we can do is on this side, we can connect it to our switch. Should have no problem doing so. That's a fine angle for the curve. I'm not too worried about that. What we can then do is get our double mainline spacing here. I don't want to jeopardize anything, so we're just going to keep at least the two of them roughly in line or as equal as possible. Let's get it to the same place. Then we can connect likewise here. Yep, very smooth transition between them. This will technically be our main line here, and this will be for the industry, but it won't really matter since both of them are going to converge to the same place anyway. We can kind of have our infrastructure ready in place. The spacing for these two are going to dictate where we should come in on the rail. So we're just going to extend these pieces out. This is not final. This is just going to kind of get our height. I'm going to try to see where everything starts to line up together. So it's actually going to be kind of funny is I think I'm going to make the angle of this line here be the angle we come in at. I know we're heading for a mountain, but we can kind of do is split the tracks down the middle. And so instead of having it just completely go out this way or completely go out this way, we can make it go out in the middle between these two. But now you can kind of see where everything is going to be linked up together. Now, the actual grade. What are we going to do here? Well, I think I'm going to stay still for a second and draw out the path. We will be starting on the far right in the gorge. That is where our current rails are. We'll be then curving from this perspective to the left. We'll curve to the left, either behind or around these hills. We're going to keep going up and up and up, paralleling this hill right here. Then we are going to start our loop, curved kind of like a bowl, around, and then straight into where we are here. So once again, it's just going to make this, not question mark, close to it, but we're going to do a little snake all the way up here. The reason for this, instead of just building up, is I wanted to make sure it still looks good. I want to use the terrain as much as possible so we have some kind of anchor point for us to build the route. So now we can actually start building from our main line. Once we're back over here, you can kind of see, I think we're a little behind actually. I'm going to delete this piece here. Let's get it back. I'm actually going to show you where I want to start it from. This is where I want to start the grade. This piece right here is where I actually want to start the grade. To do that, well, I think, I'm going to be honest with you, I really don't know the grade we should choose. I think 3% is going to be too much. I want to try 2%. I want to try 2%. We have a lot of space, so I'm going to kind of milk this one out. I'm going to do 20 meters. Let's change it here, make sure I'm actually accurate. Great. We have a 2% grade going up at 20 meters. Now, why? Why would I do this instead of just a bigger piece out? Well, if you haven't seen this before, let's show it now. If I were to start a grade, let's do 2% again, but let me extend it really far out. So that piece is 20 meters. So let's go 60. So that's a 2% grade I just built. Now from our other piece, let me build a 2% grade from here. Whoa. What? That's crazy. They're both 2%. What happened? Well, unfortunately, the game likes to calculate the smoothest transition from flat ground to a grade. Hold up. Future Kist here. One thing I actually wanted to talk about before moving on is exactly this. What is this actually called? Well, this is the process of vertical curves, and within Roads Online, it calculates this. The point of a vertical curve is to calculate the smoothest transition from either level ground to a grade, or from a grade to level ground. I'm showing two diagrams here, one of which is the actual math, the default diagram of a summit curve, which is when the grade crests over a hill. This can also be applied to when the curve flattens out. The other one I'm showing you is the opposite, called a valley curve, is when the curve is the opposite. It's making a U shape instead of an N shape or an upside down U, if you will. The point is, again, is calculating the smoothest transition from flat ground to a grade, and you'll see this here between both the rails. Alright, let's continue. Let me get rid of this piece and actually use a different color. Let's use the stone wall. Kind of get something to contrast with. If I were to step back and look at this, the lower piece is just a really long 60-meter piece, but it gradually transitions to a 2% grade. It's leveling out from flat ground to 2%. However, if we look at the stone wall piece, what we did is we made a shorter 20-meter segment transition into it, so 2% transition. The stone wall then is at a constant 2% up. If you ever build grades, you need to be careful of this. This will become a really dominating factor if you can make it to a certain place or not. The best thing to do is do a smaller transition piece. And even furthermore, I want to show you guys something that happens when you do it on a curve. So we have 2% flat ground. As soon as I change it, look again, it actually gets higher. So it's a little bit sharper than 2% as soon as I turn it one way or the other. To do this, to actually combat the difference, is when you start building on a curve, you have to build 0.5% lower. The calculations is weird like that, but it's how we combat all of this. So we have a 2% grade. Let's go ahead and make sure we're actually fixing this. 2% grade, 20 meters. That's what I want. Same thing here on this side, 20 meters. Should roughly be in line. The fun part, how are we actually going to build a grade kind of like this? We'll get to this piece in a second, but I want to show you the method for this before we even begin. I want these two tracks to be parallel. Let's actually build our first segment. You know what, on second thought, I think we can actually stay flat for a little bit longer. I don't think we need to do 2% here. We can actually probably do a 1% but we have a lot of flat ground to cover first. So let's actually get these pieces fixed first. Kind of all over the place, but there is a reason. We'll get to it. This side will be the inside curve next. I'm thinking I want to curve around here up to the mountain, but you can see the terrain shift, so we will have to start the grade. But let's first figure out the curve radius we want. So just figured out we're going to do a 550 meter curve, not all flat. We'll do a part of it first and then start the grade. So 550, let's do 50 meter segments just so we can actually build from. I know that's 49, but we don't really care. Let's do another 50 meter. And here we're going to start the grade. Yeah, I think here we're going to start the grade. So let's go straight to 2%. If I were to drag this out, let's see how high I'm going to get before then. Okay, so 2%, we're going to be rather high. 1.5 would be better, I think. Let me see, if I were to just drag a piece over here. So 1.5 would actually do it for us. I think we can actually get away with a 1.5% grade. That would prove really nice for us when we actually run trains. If you aren't aware, the oil cars are really heavy, so the less shallow of a grade we have, the better. So we're going to do a 25 meter transition, and we're going to stop here. But I'm a dummy because I just spoke about it. Really, when we build on a curve, it's going to be less than. So this is more like 1.5. Yes. Now let's actually get everything else in place first, and I'll be right back. Okay, look, great. I just got those few pieces in, and again, I can just not stop looking at this. This will be so fun. This looks so cool. But we have to continue on and push through. Grades. How do I build double track grades, multiple track grades? Now, unfortunately, it gets complicated. This is rather tedious compared to everything else, and this will be a bulk of the video, and I know it's going to be running long already, but this will just take a big chunk. So let's spend a few minutes to really just deep dive into how do I build this stuff, and then we're going to time lapse the rest of the build into the refinery. Just like we talked about with the transition piece, it will do the same thing for leveling out. If I do a 0% grade, you can kind of see it starts to level out. So with this piece, it is now at a level ground, and you can see if I crouch, it's starting to bend down for the grade as well. If I were just to place a crossover, what it does is it levels out immediately. But we don't want this, because if, let's say I just did another crossover piece, and if I connected this track to it, watch what happens. It will try to level out for it. And even though it's trying to curve over, what you can see is that it's actually higher than this rail. It is slightly higher as we go along. So there are these constant grade discrepancies for whenever we build. Now with curves, it becomes really hard because now you have to cover the horizontal distance, not the vertical. Already we're on the grade with our transition piece, but to make sure everything else is in line, what we need to do first is flatten it back out. So let's do a nice big piece. Let's do 10 meters, flatten back out. So now the grade is level. What I can then do is build our double mainline crossovers. Extend it out for, again, another 22.2 or whatever the value is to get it in line. What we're then going to do is bend the rail back down -1. That's it, for 10 meters only. Great. Now, the transition piece, they are in line with each other. What I can then do is go over here to our grade and then connect it. Instead of leveling out, the grade is trying to match the slope. You can see now is that they should be roughly parallel or traveling up at the same rate. Yes. It seems like they are. And the reason they were like overlapping was just because of my camera angle. If I were to delete these pieces, we can actually see them be together. They look like they're in line, and that is because they are. Now, if it looks a little weird for everything else, like how it's sloping out, that is alright. We're not going to be too worried about it. We're not going to be too picky. Just now we know they are traveling at the same rate. So let's do it for the other side, and I'll be right back. Okay, beautiful. Just got all 3 of the transition pieces in place. Now, I'm only going to show this one more time, but let's actually do our next legit segment of the main line. What we're gonna do is we're actually traveling at 1.5% grade. Our radius is 550, so let's go over there. And we can actually build. I'm gonna do slightly bigger segments of 70 meters instead of 50 or 40. We don't have to spend as much time, but if we do any bigger, we were gonna ruin the centricity of the curve with the freeform tool. This said, we have our first segment. What we need to do is constantly just go back to neutral, 0 meters, and level our grade out. We're still doing 10 meters, we don't need to go crazy here. 10 meter, leveling it out. You can see now, again, the track is bending down, it is now leveled. We can then place a switch and place our mainline spacings. Extend this out 22.2, and since we're getting higher, I think it's better to go up at the switch. I'm gonna look right here, because if you can faintly see, there is a little texture line between the end cap and the normal fill. That wasn't meant to happen. But regardless, is we're looking for that little texture line, and once I know I'm in place there, I'm gonna walk a little bit forward. We'll place the rail. Bend down at -1.5 this time for 10 meters because we're trying to match the grade. There we go. Those two should be in line. And again, now what we can do is just take one of the fills and drag it up to meet it. Now we have two parallel rails traveling at the same rate, covering the same distance, and they are in line with each other. This is what we gotta do for quite literally all of it. This is daunting. We have a big grade, but to make sure they are consistent, they are level, they are in line, we need to constantly do this. So here's the process, and we'll list it out. Step 1 is build your first segment, build one line that you want. Now, if it's either for the transition piece or for the actual part of the grade, it doesn't matter. What you want to do is take regular fill, bridge, whatever, just pick a piece of track, and you want to level it out. I suggest 10 meters, so level out for 10 meters. Then what you're going to want to do is place a switch in either direction to get your spacing. If it's 2 crossovers, it's 2 crossovers. If it's a switch to a switch, it's a switch to switch. If it's my method, then it's my method. Once you do, you need to first bring it back to the switch, because that's where the grade starts. First bring it back to where the grade starts. From there, what you can do is take a piece and bend it down at the same rate. So if you have a 2% grade, bend it down at 2%. If you have a 1% grade, bend it down at 1%. Whatever the case might be. This is to ensure that you can get on the grade. And then once you do this, connect your second piece to your transition piece. This will ensure that they are going to be parallel, they're going to travel at the same rate, and all the fun, fancy stuff. And after you do that, you can delete the scaffolding, and then build the next piece, and then rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. It's going to be rather daunting. I think I'm going to do one side at a time. I'm unsure, but regardless, let's jump into a time lapse and actually finish the grade out. So I'm taking a pause real quickly because I just wanted to say that kind of by luck, we're actually going to be relatively close. What I just wanted to do was test out, see if we're actually going to be coming in at a nice angle. The problem is this, you can see, is just a little bit higher. So we're probably going to have to start shallower or level out sooner. I don't know. We'll find out. But yeah, I think we'll be perfectly in line. Now let's go jump back in and finish it out. Alright, I'm utterly confused right now. Kist made a boo-boo. Alright, this is no big deal. You can fix this. Let's jump right back in and finish it out. And we are done. That's it, everybody. 3 tracks all the way to the refinery. That took so long. That took me 45 minutes in real time. Alright, let's go look at it in Roads Extended and let's just take an overview of it. And would you look at that? We are done. Took us what? 3 months? 4 months? Something like that? Took us a while, but we eventually got there. What we're seeing here is what we just built in this episode, the actual 3-track mainline to the refinery. It all looks rather good. I'm really happy with it. I think it looks really impressive. It's most definitely overkill, but hey, we don't really care about that. It looks cool. If you take a step back and actually look at the bigger map and everything else, in my opinion, I think it looks really cool. I'm happy with a lot of things. Up here, we got the smelter and the beautiful connection between the iron mine, coal mine, and to the smelter itself. Got our cloverleaf sawmill, very simple logging camp, a massive yard for no reason. But I am really happy with how things have turned out for this world, for this save. Now, what is going to happen next? What is the plan from here on? Well, I have 3 more videos planned for the remainder of Trackling 101. They will consist of me just going through and fixing the different places on the save. So one video will be me fixing all the problem areas, the places I don't like that I built and I want to fix them. Another video will be how to build on multiplayer servers. It's like if you join your friends, then you're like, what? Why can't I place this track to the Switch? What is going on? And I just want to share with you my tips and the little nuances I've discovered when trying to build on multiplayer servers. The other thing will be how to build dev bridges, just these giant wooden bridges across the valleys in different places. And I actually just want to show you how to do that. I think it will be a rather fun video. Yeah, and that's about it. Just those 3 videos will be the rest of Trackling 101. To actually end the series, here's my surprise. Is I want to do a live stream and have you guys, both members from my Discord and from YouTube, come on and do an operating session. My plan is to get oil barrels. We're going to try to speed run oil barrels, and I'll do some prep work in the meantime so we're not just starting from scratch. But I think it should be fun, and I hope you guys can join me. Now, after Trackling 101, what is there after the live stream? Well, I plan to release the save after the live stream. Even though the world is done, it's not fully complete, and I'll actually probably release the save before the live stream so it's empty and so you guys can have it, so there's no trains on it. But after the live stream, I will release it. I'll probably link it into a Google Drive, maybe a Google folder for you guys to actually have, but that is the plan. After the next part of Trackling 101, what are we going to see on my channel? Well, you'll have to wait to find that one out. I do have stuff planned, but we'll get there, and you'll see. Alright, y'all. If you made it this far, it really does mean a lot to me. I know this is a long video, and it just means the world that you guys have stuck around this far. But I don't got anything else to say. Let's just end it here. My name is Kist, and I thank you for watching. Bye-bye.